We're going to jump back into the Odyssey Alpha discussion with a topic that I know is near and dear to Souverine's heart, zero-G outposts and how they're treated in the Alpha. Suv, any thoughts on that?
I think that it's absolutely fine, and we should just stick artificial gravity and call it a day.
Well, I see you've had a change of heart.
I was fucking with you. I think that I think Odyssey is really great. I think the interiors of the stations are brilliant, and for somebody who primarily plays Elite for escapism and immersion, I love the fact that a universe which has previously been about the macro, been about things being very big, I now can experience on a personal level, on a human level, and seeing the interiors of starports is absolutely wonderful, because until now they've only existed in my imagination for the last 6 or 7 years. But when I first got out of the elevator at an outpost, that was ignobly shattered by the sight of lots of open top glassware hanging out on tables and things clearly sitting on other things under gravity and all that sort of thing. And it just irked me because Elite has always impressed me with its commitment to internal consistency and not necessarily realism. David Braben's attitude has always been realism as far as possible, but always to be sacrificed for gameplay when there is a tension between the two, which I think is absolutely the right attitude. This isn't a situation of that, because there is no gameplay advantage to having the wrong art in Outposts. But it really irked me. It's not a huge deal. It's not worth delaying the release for. It's not worth, like, I'm not accusing anybody of laziness or incompetence or anything like that. I think it's an oversight. I think Frontier at a sort of top level haven't changed their policy. The Elite Dangerous Galaxy is still one in which artificial gravity doesn't exist. But I think that at some point during the production of the Odyssey art assets, nobody thought to say, hey, hold on, Outposts don't spin. So I guess my forum post earlier this week was to gauge how many people agreed with me and whether there was much sentiment in support of that view. And I think most people, if the forums are representative of the wider community, then it looks like most people agree, but also most people do agree that it's not a deal breaker. They just like it to be added to Frontier's to-do list. They're just, I think me and most other people who commented are of the opinion that, hey, Frontier, when you get a bit of time, if you could make a few art assets for those outpost interiors that at least look like they're a weightless environment, that would be marvelous.
Maybe put lids on the cups, something like that.
Yeah, it's just straws and lids. Just do it.
It's on the magnet coasters.
Yeah, precisely that. Yeah.
Kai, you had some thoughts on this one?
Absolutely. Am I muted? No, I'm not.
No,
okay.
You're good. You're good.
Right. I'm running missions in Odyssey Alpha right now as we go. So yeah, let's take a moment and address this. Souverine's amazing forum thread will be in the show notes. I've done a little bit of a job hyping it up this week, and I feel like it's sort of important. And here's why. And some of you guys might not think it's important. Some of you guys might think, hey, it's fine, and why are you being a forum dad and just complaining and nitpicking and whatever? But here's the thing. My friend told me that scientific accuracy to an extent and 100% scientific sort of consistency is important. So my friend told me that internal consistency is important, and that some sort of sci-fi just makes stuff up sometimes about, sort of making fake gravity. And my friend told me that, it's important that Elite sort of get a lot of the details right and stay consistent. And you guys might not think so, but my friend's a pretty smart cookie. And I don't want to, be rude, but my friend's smarter than you. And you guys might say, well, hey, I'm a Kickstarter backer and I've been with this game for forever. My friend's been with this longer than you. And he made a very important point that they don't want to use magic like you see in, you know, some things, that they want to sort of go with what makes sense, what you can do with science, what you can actually make happen. And I'm not asking for, or Sovereign is not asking for, hey, give us full on, let us just float. Like, we're cool with the gravity boots thing. That's cool. We just want to see some art assets that work as far as, number one, strap shit down. Number two, you put drinks in the little squeezy pouches that NASA uses or that you see on the Expanse when they're in 0G. I would love zero gravity movement. I would love EVAs. I think that we're actually going to get those things, but I think that those things are maybe 3 or 4 years down the pike. For now, I'm not asking that Frontier delay Odyssey to get it right. I'm not asking, you know, like, whatever. I think we're all adults. We can live with it being wrong for a couple months while Frontier sort of works on it. Like, we're willing to sort of go along with it for the process of like, okay, we just want them to acknowledge, hey, we got this bit wrong. Now, and this is not a situation of us saying out of nowhere, you know, this isn't a Latvian approach of you suck, get it right. This is a situation of Frontier asking us. Frontier has said, hey, here is Alpha Odyssey. We want your feedback. Tell us what we got right so that we can tell our dev team, hey, you guys are awesome. This is right. And tell us what we got wrong so that we can make little changes so that we can sort of fix stuff for the good of all of the player base. And I think that if you go to the thread, which is linked in the show notes, you will see that Frontier's Sovereign's forum thread is very politely worded. It's not rude. It's not fuck you, you suck. Hey. It's not any of that bullshit. It's like, hey guys, we love your game. We love Odyssey. This one thing you got wrong. Here's why you got it wrong. And here's what you could do to make it right. We appreciate everything that you're doing. And just like, look at this. Just look at this and acknowledge it. And if you acknowledge it and say, we've chosen to go a different way. Okay. But like, you're asking us for input. We're giving input. That's pretty much it. And now, Control. Play the clip of my friend so you can see his opinion, and play it with the sound so you can hear his opinion. Go.
So science fiction things that work. So for me, some of the early material in Star Wars was great. It was consistent. You can see this grubbiness. You see how it worked. You could see how a ladder would go up to it. I'm talking about things like X-Wing fighters, things like that. The later series of Battlestar Galactica really looked like they would work in some way. You know, they'd been designed to work in a real world. Now with Elite, we have other restrictions, if you like, requirements. So we don't have artificial gravity, which I know is a sci-fi staple. But what we've tried to do is to stick with things that make sense in science. Apart from hyperspace, which you said, that's a sort of suspension of disbelief, if you like. But you don't need gravity in space. We have concepts like magnetic boots. We have space stations that rotate, that give you essentially artificial gravity. But it's artificial in a way that truly works today. It's not artificial, as in it's not possible. So with those sort of things, they create design philosophies for the ships. If you imagine a trading ship, it will probably spend a lot of its time landed either in artificial gravity inside a rotating space station, or eventually landed on the surface of a planet where it's the right way up. So it still makes sense for there to be some sort of general orientation to the ship where people walk around inside, and you need to have a concept of up. But also we design it in mind, the fact that it will spend some of its time in 0G. So there are some interesting design philosophies that come from that, and you'll see that over the period of development.
So, you know, I think I might have a solution here. My brain has been intermingling the neurons, or however that shit works. So we don't want artificial gravity because, you know, it's too sci-fi. It's not grounded enough. And if we institute it, then, you know, why would an Orbis or a Coriolis station spin, right?
Yeah.
Solution is simple. Spin the outposts. All the outposts need to start spinning and spinning and spinning. Now think about it. It solves the problem of the gravity, but it also creates an interesting gameplay mechanism because it'll be very interesting to dock with.
Yeah, I mean, that's not the worst idea.
You could actually do that, but in order to do that, you would need to put the outpost on an arm around a focal point, and you would need to spin it. You can't just spin it around by itself. It's not far enough. It has to be far enough away from a central fulcrum.
2 balls on a stick kind of thing.
You give it 2 arms because 1 arm would look dumb. You give it 2 arms, then you put rockets or T9s at the end of each arm, and they just basically spin it.
I mean, so you literally, there are 3 ways to solve this. The first way is you put it on an arm on a focal point, and then you spin it at a rate and distance such that it would create Coriolis effect equal to the gravity that you want to create. That's one way. The second way would be to turn the entire thing sideways and have it boost, because just like on the Expanse, you can, if you're boosting sort of from the floor, if you make the floor where the rockets are and you stay constantly accelerating at a slight rate, you can create inertial effect gravity. And the third way is just strap shit down. I think my way is easier, but whichever way Frontier would like to address it, so long as they stay internally consistent with their own stated goal of being accurate, then yeah, okay, whatever.
Hashtag spin the outposts.
I think it'd be great to see 2 outposts attached with a scaffold spinning like a giant noob hammer that you have.
And that could be very, very cool. But let me point out that if they do that, that's going to be a huge ball ache on their end to figure out how exactly do we have shit dock with this? But like, hey man, if that's the way they want to go.
Hold on. I got a solution for that too. The landing pads spin also in the opposite direction.
Yeah.